Alrighty, fellas, we are back. Sales Bro Pod, episode 12. This time with Mr. Garrett Campbell. Garrett, thanks for coming on, man.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Killer name for a podcast, by the
I know
way.
it was literally the first name that I thought of, and I was like, that kind of rings. Let's go with it. And just started ripping it. But no, man, been a while since we chatted, so I think there's going to be a lot that we cover. Just
Yeah.
catching up, and also a lot of game. A lot of people kind of in our experience range, age range. Like it's going to be really relevant, I feel like, to a lot of your audience and my audience. So
Mhm.
looking forward to it, man. Just so if anyone doesn't know you and they're listening to this, what are you up to like right now today?
Yeah. So right now we run Better Endeavors is like the name of the business, and we run the Closing Bible. We have a sales training with guaranteed placement into like high end roles. And then if you're a business out there, it's got a big old business and you want some more sales guys, we place sales guys like for free into online service based businesses that are doing at least 100 grand a month. So
Cool. Cool. Now, obviously, you didn't start there, so let's take it back. Let's take
of
it
course.
back. Before sales was a thing, you kind of growing up, going through school. What kind of person were you, man? Like, how did you get to be who you are now?
Yeah. So Garrett in school was, I think I always naturally just from like school, like I wasn't like the guy who like just struggled in school. Like I had like a 3.9, 4.0 GPA through like high school and college. Didn't finish college, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But when I was in school, it was always like, okay, how little can I do to get the outcome of like the grade? So whether that was like I don't know, doing anything I can to like get the grades, but doing the bare minimum. It was like making friends with the smart kids or, talking to a teacher or like doing some like cutting some corner via like studying or like finding the answers online, like doing fucking whatever to like get the grades. Like that's what I would do. And I played football, basketball, baseball year round, and I competed at a relatively high level being in high school. So I was crazy competitive, and I got pretty good grades. I started working in like fourth grade. So
Mm, okay, so it sounds like, I mean, you just wanted to like get it done. You wanted to be efficient. You want to be effective. I was kind of the same way myself. Maybe tried like applied myself. I feel a little bit harder like academically, but like any time that I could like make it easier, I was definitely trying to figure out how to do that. So
yeah,
you're working since you said fourth grade or 4 years old. What you said
fourth
fourth
grade.
grade?
No, no,
Okay,
no.
okay. What were
I
you
was in
doing?
I was
Like,
in pull ups, just grinded. No, yeah, I was. Well, like, dude, like both my parents grew up in like trailers, like like just not like bad families by any means necessary, but just like lower income families that didn't really have much. And I grew up in a like ungodly small town in like small town USA, like Carlinville,
yeah,
Illinois, if you've ever heard of it. A
no,
couple thousand people, like super small. So like my parents kind of came from nothing. So that was kind of their expectation, which is like they told me from a super young age, like, hey, do you want to be the kid when you're 16 that doesn't have a car? Like, cool, go fucking work and go make some money. So I was like mowing lawns and like pulling weeds and like weed eating and doing basic landscaping stuff or like building decks or like helping my dad with like some construction stuff because that's what he did like at a super
yeah.
super young age. So I always just kind of knew like if I wanted something, I had to like grind to like pay for it.
When you were younger and like that, I mean, I'm sure you grew up around some people that like maybe that wasn't the case. Like their parents would help them out and stuff like that. I had a pretty similar like upbringing where my parents taught me like how to save my money and how to earn it and do all that. And they were like, if you want it, you have to get it. At the
Yeah,
time, like I was like, fuck, like why can't I just like get why can't like they just help me out like my friends and all that? But like looking back, I think it really helped me. Do you feel the same way now?
absolutely. I think one of the best things that my parents could have done for me was like when I dropped out of college. Like not that they really financially supported me in any way, shape, or form, really. Anyway, it was kind of just like, hey, like you need a tank of gas here and there, like we'll cover it. Or hey, if you want to go out to eat, like yeah, we can cover a meal or something. But it wasn't like being financially supported in any way, shape, or form. But like when I dropped out of college, they're like, Garrett, like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, we're not, like, when your back's against the wall and you don't have money, like, we will not help you. So, like, good
Yeah.
luck. And that level of, like, back against the wall, like, figure something out, is what made me grow a ton because there was no like safety net. And I think honestly, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if they did like financially help me like other people's parents do. So I think it
Yeah.
was ungodly beneficial, and I like couldn't thank them enough for like making me figure it out.
Yeah. How did you like fall into entrepreneurship?
Um, Depends how far back we want to go. Like, I think it's just common in my family. Like, I have a problem with being like managed by people, or being like micromanaged by people, being told what to do, just like authority in general. Like, I was always like a little bit on the side of like a class clown and like just not really doing what teachers say. Or when I was working jobs, I'm like, why the fuck do we have to do this? This doesn't make sense to me. So like a lot of my like family is self-employed in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like construction or roofing or electric. Like I have a like pretty blue collar family, so like it's kind of in my blood a little bit. No
Yeah.
one in my family really has like massive businesses or anything, but it's just like making some money doing something, on their own. So it was kind of in my DNA. And I remember one time I was working at a sandwich shop, like sandwich and like ice cream shop, making actually less than minimum wage, which I don't know how that was legal, but it's a small town, so you can just break laws. And they mentioned that there was a school nearby where they had MacBooks, and they had this grant to where they would get new MacBooks every single year. So they had these computers where they were only a year old, and they were selling them to the public for only $300 a pop. And they're like 2017 MacBooks, 2016 MacBooks, a year old for $300. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you have to be able to sell these for more money. And I had like $2,000 to my name, and I was like, all right, well, I'll just buy like 5 of them, like pretty much all the money I have to my name, and see if I can sell these bad boys. And I sold all of them for like $600. And literally, it would take me like all summer to make like $1,500, like maybe $2,000 if I'm grinding, at that
Yeah.
sandwich shop. And I made like 1,500 or $2,000 or something like that, in like a week of flipping these. And I was like, whoa, like if you don't do this like hourly stuff, and you can like figure out how to like your money not be tied to like time, like you can make a lot more money. So it
Yeah.
was eye opening for me. Um, but it was just like an eye opening moment, and I didn't really know what to do with it because I was like fucking 16 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I got into college. And this was a conversation that really revolutionized, my life, where I wanted to be a chiropractor since like middle school. Like it was what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to college for it. It was what I was set in stone in doing, because I wanted to like help people. And I got adjusted by a chiropractor from a super young age. So I was always just like, okay, like someone comes in, they're in pain, they're not the happiest in the world, they have this problem, and then they leave smiley as hell, like literally thanking the chiropractor for like, fixing their problems so they can walk without pain. So I'm like,
Yeah.
that's fucking dope. Like, I didn't want to be like a tow truck guy or like a police officer where it's like, fuck, I just got towed or just got pulled over. Like, I don't want to go talk to this guy. Like, I wanted people like looking forward to seeing me, not like vice versa. So I'm
Yeah.
like, this is awesome. I can help people. So when I was in college, I was in like anatomy and physiology 2 in this like big ass auditorium with like 300 people. And my professor mentioned that she was a chiropractor in the past, and I got stoked. I was like, hell yeah, I can actually talk to someone who's like done the thing. So class like clears out, it just ended, and I like ran down the back of this auditorium. I was sitting in the back row, of course, and I'm like, hey, like you used to do some chiropractic stuff, now you're like teaching. Like, how was it like being a chiropractor? Why'd you adjust to doing this? And she got all like nervous, and I don't think she knew that I wanted to be a chiropractor. And she's like, well, basically, I didn't want to work for someone else. I wanted my own practice. And I'm like, yeah, me too. And then she's like, oh fuck. And she's like, and I knew everything about how to crack a back, everything about the human body, biology. But when it came to like, getting people to like actually come into my practice, and then the few people that did, actually getting them to give me money, I didn't really know how to do that. And I couldn't really like make the payments for like the practice, and I had student loans. So now I teach. Dude,
Mm.
my brain just like shattered. And like I was a little, of course, young and like naive. I was like fucking 18 or whatever, 19.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so you don't just like get degree, like make 200,000, because on Google it says average salary is like 200,000. So like that just doesn't like guaranteed like happen. Like you have to like get people to know what you do, and then get them to like give you money for it. I was like, holy shit, I got to figure out this like business stuff. So like 2 weeks after having that conversation, I called like every person I knew who made like any type of money. There's like one guy that did some real estate stuff that I like kind of knew from my hometown, and one guy who has like a couple like medical centers and stuff like that. And I'm calling everyone. I'm like, how do I make money? I don't know if college is for me. I'm kind of freaking out. And they're like, bro, just like get into sales. And I'm like, bro, I get nervous like asking a waiter that my food's fucked up and like for something else. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is not for me at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I called like 5 different people that made some level of money and they're like, bro, just get into sales. And I was like, I don't think that's for me. And I'm smarter than that. And I want to work for myself. Like I want to be self-employed. I want to work for someone else. So I started flipping shoes and like designer clothes and Yeezys and Jordans and all that fun stuff. And I made a good amount of like cash there, like, you know, relative to like what I had going on. It was a good chunk of money, I guess. And I did that for a bit. Bought a couple pair of like fake shoes for like $4,000, which was fucking awful because it was like all the money I had at the time. And that happened a couple of times and I got screwed over, made some money, lost some money. And then I just realized like, okay, like maybe these guys were right and I don't know how to run a business. And then that's what kind of led me to like actually get into sales. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. I was gonna thinking about that lady chiropractor teacher. She couldn't close, bro.
No.
Why didn't you? I mean, have you ever now like after you started kind of like selling shoes and I mean, kind of stepping into this and realizing like once you take your time out of the equation, you can really scale. Did you ever think
Yeah.
like, okay, now I kind of understand like the skill of sales a little bit. Maybe I should go back to do like the chiropractor stuff and then like I could make it work on my own or no? Did that never cross your mind?
It never really did. No. I'm like, I mean, at minimum, like I could like literally just work with an already existing chiropractor that has all the degrees and help them with like marketing and sales and like become an equity
Yeah.
partner. Like I wouldn't have to like get a degree. Like I realized if you
Yeah.
have the business know-how and like they can fulfill, then you can just partner with them and like make money or like own like it like the degree is not a prerequisite to getting into that field. So I'm like, if I really wanted to, I could without it.
Yeah.
Um, so it's not crossed my mind like big time, but I think you're kind of changing my mind now.
Yeah. The only reason I asked is because like you said since I think middle school you were like I want to be a chiropractor. So like I was just curious if that had ever crossed your mind, but you're right, dude. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that you could do with chiropractors without being a chiropractor to make more money than you could being a chiropractor.
Yeah.
Not
And I
sales
think like,
aside, like you can do a lot of different things.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the reason I wanted to do it so much, and I think why it wasn't top of mind for me to go back to that now that I know how to do all this shit, um, was that I just wanted to like help people like at my core. I'm just like, I just want to like solve problems, like help people and like have them look forward to seeing me. And I just
Yeah.
assumed chiropractic and like the bubble that I lived in that age, like the rock I live under and being in a small ass town was like, that was the way of doing it. So when I kind
Yeah.
of ventured off into sales and I'm like, okay, these prospects like have a really big problem. And especially if you're selling an actually good service, it's like you can like help all parties. You can help the prospect solve their problem. You help the business owner like make more money. And in turn, you help yourself obviously put more money in your pocket. So I'm like, I'm literally helping both parties here and I'm putting money in my pockets for doing this. So I think that's why chiropractic kind of slipped my mind because I'm like, oh, I'm doing what I wanted to
Still
fulfill through
helping.
chiropractic anyway.
Yeah. And you're probably making a little bit more money from it. At
Yeah.
least without like the ramp up of like all the degree and then starting the business or finding someone to work with and all that. So I've heard the story before, but for those who haven't, like, well, maybe this wasn't your first sales job, maybe it was, but the whole story of you on like the Instagram live was that how
Yeah.
you got your first sales job?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, like, I would consider the first like real sales job. Like I sold like supplements for like my friend that like had a supplement business a little bit. And like I took a couple like one-off sales calls for like a friend that had a business, but like an actual
Yeah,
sales job where I was like making consistent money and it was like, you know, have calls on the calendar, like doing calls. Like, yeah, this was like the first like actual sales gig that was like relatively well put together. But yeah, there was this guy who had a sales agency, verified, couple million followers, the whole shebang. And he, believe it or not, my girlfriend was in like network marketing, still with her now. And she was like doing some like sales training thing. And she's like, hey babe, you should go like check this out. I'm like, this guy's like smart, like makes a lot of money, does like sales stuff. And I'm like, and that was kind of when I was in this mental state of like, sales isn't really for me. Like, that's not what I'm going to do. But I
Yeah.
listened to this guy talk, and I'm like, whoa, like this guy can charge like 20 racks for stuff, and like people buy it. Like you can just get $20,000 on one call. Like that's nuts. And
Yeah.
like he can close a lot of clients per month. I'm like, okay, like this is interesting. Like I didn't know, like, because this is when I was like flipping shoes and stuff. So I'm like, hold up, like I make $50 profit, $100 profit, maybe $500 profit on a pair of shoes, but like I can just sell a service for like 20 grand and make 2 grand commission on this. Like this is a whole different ballpark. I don't even have to leave my place and like ship some box and deal with fake shoes. Like I sent him a link. I'm like, this is different. Like this seems a lot more scalable, doable, and like more legitimate, like all that. So I was like following this guy for a bit, kind of like as I was flipping shoes. And after I got fucked over a few times, I was just like sitting on this guy's Instagram live, like literally like laying in bed, like lights off. And yeah, there are like 600 people in this like Instagram live, and he's just doing like a Q&A. So like people are requesting, they ask a question, he answers it, and he's just doing this all night. And I like clicked request, but I think you've maybe done this before. If you're like massive Twitter spaces or something, where like, yo, there's like 1,000 people in here. Like, you think they're gonna like bring me up and like answer my question when there's so many people? I was like, I'll click it, but like he's not actually going to. And then like my screen started loading, and I was like, oh shit, like I don't even know what I'm gonna say. So I like ran, like flipped my light on, like fixed my hair a little bit, and I'm like, dude, like I've been following you for like a couple months now. It was actually like 3 weeks. And I'm like, I really like look up to you. Like you clearly make your clients like a lot of money. And like, I want to help you make more money. Are you hiring sales guys? Dude, he was so caught off guard. He was like I wasn't expecting this one. And he's like, dude, if you have the balls to like ask me in front of 600 people for a sales gig, you probably have the balls to take a no on a sales call. So like, sure, like DM me, like this is bold. I kind of liked it. Like shoot me a DM, like we'll kind of chat. Literally from there, I got on a interview with one of their guys, and like in the interview, he's like, "Bro, you like asked him in front of 600 people." He's like, "You got some balls." And I kind of like sold myself on the interview pretty hard and got the role. So that's how it happened.
Yeah. Were you setting or closing?
Yeah. So to start, I was calling opt-in leads. So like I was setting. And dude, funny enough, like I was so young and just so like hungry. I didn't even know the difference between like setting and closing. So like I'm calling these opt-in leads, trying to like close them on like the like quote unquote like cold call. So I was like setting, not knowing the difference between setting and closing. And if they wouldn't pay on that call, I would just set them and then kind of take a closing call, like with no structure at all. But
Hmm.
I was basically setting some appointments. And then if I could close them myself, I was just like closing them. Like the company
Yeah.
didn't have a whole lot of structure, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So all of you guys that are listening that are looking for that first or next job, just request to speak on Instagram lives that you otherwise wouldn't expect to be accepted into, and get yourself that first sales job. Once you
Yeah.
got
And I
that
think,
job, I'm sure. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead, dude.
I was going to say, once you got that job, I'm sure it got a lot easier to get the next one, right?
Yeah, and that was the cool thing about it being a sales agency. It was like they definitely put me on their worst client for like the first offer I got put on. But when I was like the best sales rep on like that sales team, they're like, oh, okay, like this guy's got some potential. He's not the best in the world, but he's working like 13 hours a day, like 6-7 days a week. So like he has good work ethic, so he could probably compensate for like lack of skill and lack of experience. So I got put on a little bit of a better client, and then I started like getting some inbounds, and like I started closing some deals. I was literally like managing. I was managing the guys. Like I was like logged into his Instagram, setting my own appointments via DMs, and then like closing those. So I was kind of setting my own inbounds, and then they were running some ads, and I was getting some inbounds from there, closing some deals, and then I did a little bit better for them. And then I got put on one of their bigger clients, which was Ty Lopez, like the just sitting here in my garage guy. And I closed for him for a bit of time. So I kind of moved up the ladder within the agency.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's one good thing. Like I'm sure you know a lot of guys too who do that like sales agency model, and they have a bunch of clients that they recruit for. Like I always tell people, like try to get in touch with those people and then perform well, and then you'll be taken care of. Like if you can perform well. So
Mm-hmm.
people are probably wondering, dude, you worked for Ty Lopez. How was it? Or like, what was
He
your
was he
experience?
Yeah, he's an interesting character. And like obviously, like he wasn't like topping on every training call and sales huddle with me. Like the sales manager was a pretty good filter for, was a pretty good filter between me and him, to where I wasn't like directly talking with him a lot. I had one call with him that was 4 minutes long. Like he booked in a 4 minute meeting. I'm like, this guy's different. um, but it was pretty good. Like I was selling like the whole SMA course. It was like $1,500, and there was like a 2K or something like that, or like 1K and 2K, 3K. Like it wasn't past like 3K, and it was pretty good. It's what I did. I did the best on within that agency. I think I kind of peaked out at like 5-ish K a month, 6-ish K a month. But I think what really broke my brain and made me realize like, okay, sales might be my thing. Was the best closer at the agency was making 70 grand a month in commissions. And I'm like, this isn't adding up. I'm like, we're selling something right around the same price. Like he was getting more inbound leads, like for sure. But he was just an animal, and he was really good at sales. And like I like paid him to like just literally do his job just on Zoom, where he's like calling people and like I'm just like watching. Um,
Mhm.
and it really made me realize like when you're in a commission based role, like your skill directly correlates to like how much money you're making. And it really made me realize like how much development and like room for growth that I needed to have. So it was very eye opening being around sales guys making money. I
Yeah.
think that's what made me do this for so long until it like really, really worked.
Yeah. So he was the best closer for that agency. Was he closing on the same offer or a different one?
Same offer.
Damn. And making 70
Yeah.
grand a month. Like the highest package was 3K.
He like literally created a 6K package, but like the, I'm not gonna like say the name of the agency, but like not the most ethically sound business in the world for sure.
Mm,
They were like, if you can sell it for more, just like do it. So I'm like,
yeah.
he was literally just like selling the same stuff for like just double the price. Um, it was a strange organization for sure. I didn't know what was right and what was wrong, so I was just like, these guys make a lot of money, like they probably know what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I I onboarded onto a team where Ty was like a partner and he was in like the meetings and all that. And it was like I never had a direct meeting with him, but like I mean, and honestly he had a really limited role, but like dude, that the opportunity was not not all that great. But I met people on that offer, like we were in the same onboarding class or whatever, that
yeah,
like people listening and you definitely know on Twitter. So it was like cool to have those connections made at
for
that time.
sure.
But so you get a little traction with this last offer. Where does like you deciding to leave school line up with all this?
Yeah, so I had already left school at this point
Okay.
for sure. Like it was like right around like I've had a few concussions in my time, so like this area is a little foggy for me. But somewhere in this span of time of like selling shoes, dropping out of school, getting into like sales was like this was all within like a 90-day period of time. So they're
Mm,
all pretty close together for sure.
okay. Cool. So you get some traction, you realize like, dude, this is actually possible. Like, when did you realize, all right, time to like go find something else? Or like how did the story play out from there?
Yeah, so they after Ty, they put me on one client that was like really not ethical. Like it was like he was running ads to like he's like sitting there in a cast and he's like, I broke my arm in like a skiing incident and I'm selling everything for this crazy discount, like in like the ad creative. And I'm like, this is fucked up. I'm like, I'm not selling for this guy. So I literally like, I called the sales manager. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I'm out. It was weird. I was like, I'm leaving. Like, I had a weird feeling like they were paying my commissions late and like a couple things. And I'm like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
So I left that and like it left a sour taste in my mouth, like literally to the point to where I'm like, I don't know if sales is for me because it just didn't feel ethical. And like growing up in a super small town where like everyone treats everyone right and like reputation is everything. I'm like, I didn't feel good doing this. So I really thought like sales like wasn't for me because it just felt morally like off. So I kind of dabbled in like trading stocks and like doing like weird shit. I thought it was Jordan Belfort. Um, and kind of dabbled in different things. And then I ended up stumbling across like another sales role. And then I think you kind of know, like you probably had something similar to this where it's like, I landed a role. It was pretty good. And then we're just kind of like continually like hopping to a better offer with warmer leads, more higher ticket, and just kind of
Yeah.
hopping from offer to offer and gradually better each time until I was in like a really killer offer. I was making a bunch of money.
Yeah. Cool. And then so you hop, and I think this is like anyone that's now making good money. Like I know one guy who his first high ticket sales job is the one where he's making like the 10, 15 a month. Or I don't know how much he makes, but everybody else, like you or you're probably going to go through a couple. It's just how it goes. Especially as you're getting better, you start to know what to look out for, what you like, what you don't like. And then you kind of get to know like other people in the space and who they're working for, and just it it only gets easier. So you get to a
Yeah.
point where you lock in like a really good offer. I've seen your stats, like you're closing really high percentage. What do you think like made that offer so good? Like why was it such a breakthrough for you?
Mm, it was just the marketing. Like the ads were good. They had to jump through so many loops to like hoops to like actually get to the call. Like they had to watch an hour-long webinar, and only once they completed it were they allowed to book a call. So it's like a VSL, but it was like an hour fucking long. So like
Yeah.
they were so warm by the time that they got there that I'm like, oh my God. Like, and the sales team, I think, got so complacent that they thought like everyone always says like, oh, like 25-ish, 30%-ish is like average close rate. So when I hopped on there, I started taking a couple calls and I closed like my first like 3 or 4. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm gonna make so much money on this offer. It was like a 6K offer. It was like a financial consulting offer. And I'd make $600 on every close. And I'm like, dude, like this is like I'm closing everyone I'm talking to. So I realized very, very quickly, like the sales process for that team wasn't honestly the best in the world, but their leads were so good. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like blow all these sales guys out of the water here, because they sent me a script and I'm like, I've been around the block a little bit and I know this isn't that good. And I reviewed some call recordings and like the salespeople were like talking like 90% of the call, and I'm like, no, like this is off. So I made a couple adjustments, and like month one, I had like the same close rate as like their best closer. Um, and I'm like, okay, like if he's been doing this for a year and I'm month one and we're the same, like I'm gonna like really do well here. I tweaked the script, I changed a couple things. The next month, I had like a 45% close rate. And then it was like 50, and it was like 55, and then it was like, it's just like 5%, 10% increases like every month until I was at like a 60% close rate.
Yeah.
And after a bit, like the sales manager and the other sales guys are like, all right, like what the fuck is Garrett saying on the phones? Cause like he's 60%, we're like 25, 30%. Like there's something off here. And I literally like wrote out, my whole like script, which I already had kind of written out, sent them my call recordings, and I kind of like gave a sales training like for the team. And then the whole team kind of started picking up. So yeah, it was really just the marketing was just dialed.
Yeah. Was that about the time when the closing Bible kind of came to fruition?
Yeah, so there were a lot of offers that I was on, of course, prior to that offer where I was making like 8K a month, like 10K a month, like kind of like around there, for like some marketing agencies and some like ecom coaching offers and stuff like that. But that offer I mentioned there was like the last offer I was on before the closing Bible started, and kind of how that all started was I was just posting on Twitter what I was doing, and I had a crazy high close rate. So I was like, hey, like I took 4 calls today, like 3 closed, like I did 21K in sales, and I made like $2,100 today. And then I had like a lot of business owners hitting me up on like money Twitter, and they're like, yo, dude, like, what do you, like, would you sell for me? Like, do you have time for another offer? And I'm like, no. And like, I was making pretty good money. I'm like, I don't want to go like sell for you. Like, I want to stay on this offer, and I'm busy. Like, my calendar's packed. So
Mm.
that was happening, and I'm like, I have all these business owners like trying to like hire me, and like some of them like just weren't really to par, like they weren't ready for a sales rep. So I'd hop on a free call with them and like fix their sales script, like tweak their offer, like change kind of some things they're saying on their calls and stuff. And I was like helping people for free because I like had the time. And then I had sales guys on the other side that were like, yo, like, how do you have this close rate? Like, what are you saying on the phones? How are you following up? All this fun stuff. And then there was one guy I helped. He was running his own business, and it was like an NFT, like community management kind of type business. And he was like a friend of mine, and he just wasn't the best sales guy in the world, but he was really good at like what he actually did. I tweaked his offer sales process, and I gave him like 2 or 3 like one-on-one kind of sales trainings, and like adjusted some things, reviewed some call recordings, and dude literally went from not being able to close a deal to doing like $500,000 in like 90 days. And he's like, yo, like, you just made me a lot of money. Like, I feel like I owe you money, so I'm going to like pay you. And like, secondly, like this whole sales training thing, like kind of fucking worked. I just made a lot of money. Like there's
Yeah.
something here. And then the light bulb kind of went off, and I'm like, okay, so I have all these businesses that like want to hire me or just want good sales reps in general. And I have all these guys that are like currently in sales that like have a good level of competency, and they're just trying to go from like good to great. So like I can train these guys, kind of ramp them up, and then kind of connect them with these businesses. So after I got that guy and a couple different people, like a lot of results for free, I'm like, okay, there's something here.
Yeah. It almost makes sense, or it makes less sense not to do it just because you're like, fuck, like there's value here. Right. So just kind
Yeah.
of a natural progression there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you started, you started working with business owners, and then it transitioned into like working with the sales reps directly?
Yeah, kind of. And like again, this was like literally me kind of like helping for free for like a lot of this
Yeah.
stuff. So it was like business owners that wanted to hire me, and I'm like, okay, like what are you doing in revenue? Like how many calls are you booking? And like, well, we have like 5 calls a week. And I'm like, okay, well, like you just need to get better at sales, bro. Like, I'm like, are you even closing? Like, are they showing up? Like, what's your show rate? And they didn't have like any like basic like tracking stuff. So I'm like, here's this like Google Sheets thing that you can kind of like do basic tracking on. Like, use this. Like, let's just hop on a call, like fix your script, and like, I don't want to work for you because you're too small, but like I could at least make this a better home for a sales rep like down the road, and you kind of know what you can like work towards. So it was kind of like helping anyone that kind of came, in my path. But it was sales reps when I like, started charging and all that.
Yeah. I think you and I are like living proof of what can happen when you just live tweet the journey on Twitter. How do you think,
Yeah.
like, if you rewinded and you were doing all this but you were never building anywhere, like on any platform, like where do you think you would be now?
I don't even
Not
know.
like you'd
I
be
would
in like a fucking awful spot or anything, but like where do
Yeah.
you think things would be?
I'd probably still be closing, dude. Like I think I'd just probably just keep doing what I'm doing, because it was like I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna like grow this following so that I can like start this business. I was just like, I don't know, like I just want to network and like meet people that are making a lot of money and like learn some cool shit. Like that was really it. Um, and then people just started asking me for stuff, and I just doing it for free until I did something for free and they gave me money, and I'm like, all right, well, like how many people want to give me money for this?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, probably now in the timeline we're at the part where I was looking to transition out and I got connected with you.
Yeah.
And I tell, when people ask me, like I tell them, you're the dude that kind of connected the dots for me in landing that first role. Um,
Right.
how, like, from the time, and maybe this was in like this time last year, maybe March, somewhere around there, or May. I don't know. It was like spring of last year.
That checks out.
Um,
Probably right around there.
yeah. So we partner up. You help me land, like, finessed into a closing role. Not finesse, but like definitely sold it.
Yeah.
Um,
There.
and then like I started closing. I got pretty involved with them, and then you kept growing Closing Bible, helping more people. Like over the next 3 to 6 months, like what happened with Closing Bible? Like what was the growth like? Results like how did it play out from there?
Yeah, it definitely evolved a lot. And like I think I was just really trying to find like product market fit with things. Cause I was like, I remember changing it to where it was like at first it was only sales reps, and then it was really anyone selling an online service. And then I realized like I could get a massive ROI for like business owners taking their own sales calls, because like instead of like the 10% commission, they make like the full thing. So it was really easy for me to like take someone's like PR agency or marketing agency from like 5K a month to like 30K a month. And I'm like, dang, if I can make them another 25 grand a month and like 6X their business, like that's pretty dope. And then when they
Yeah.
need sales reps, like I could place reps for them too. So like it kind of evolved to where I was like trying to like play sales reps and like manage sales teams and like only help businesses. And then it like just kind of like shifted back. So I was just really kind of trying to find product market fit at first. And what I kind of found to be like my sweet spot was focusing on like the sales training, and then just having a pipeline of business owners that are ready to go, that are qualified, that like need sales reps, and then just place those reps like for free for those businesses. Because I had this weird dichotomy where I was like running two whole businesses, and like I'm like, whoa, now I'm like managing 4 sales teams and then still trying to train these people. Like it got so messy.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let me just stick to my guns. Like this is free, like charge for this. And that's kind of how things flowed. And once I kind of found that sweet spot, like it simplified the whole business. Like, dude, I was learning how to run a business. Like it was my first day out here.
Yeah.
But once I got that dialed in and like I found product market fit, results were like crazy, because I started getting partnerships with, you know, guys doing like $500,000 a month, $250,000 a month, $1 million a month. They need sales guys. And like my name really got around with like in like a bunch of big masterminds and stuff, where like I have joint ventures with like some of these like massive masterminds, that all of their clients like get sales reps from me. And that's where I really hit the ground running when I built these relationships. Cause I'm sure, as you know, like when you're closing for a business that's making 25 grand a month, like you're not going to make that much money.
Yeah.
And a lot of like how much money your clients make is very predicated on the quality of the business that you work with. So,
Yeah.
when that was there, then it was like, okay, now that your calendar is actually full, like there's leads that know what's going on here. And like, now we can really focus on your sales ability and like make you the best sales rep on the sales team. And dude, that's when it was like, this guy's making 25K a month. This guy's making 20K a month, 15K a month, 10K a month, 20K a month. Like that's when like results were just like really popping off. And we've kind of just been riding that high for the past like 6 months, 9 months.
Yeah. You brought up a good point about like if you're closing for a business that's making 25K, you're not going to make much. In your mind, like,
Yeah.
is there a threshold for like this is a number? If they're below this, like I don't want to touch it, or I don't want to refer people, anything like that?
Yeah, it kind of depends after talking with them, but it's somewhere around 100K a month. Like
Yeah.
if they're doing like 70, 80, and they're like really just like so packed out on sales calls and they're closing and the show rate's there, and like their only true limitation is that like they don't have any spots on the calendar for people to book, but people are closing and showing up and all that fun stuff. If they're like 70, 80, I'll like allow it. But more times than not, like 100, 120 consistently for the past like 3 months or so, it's not like a little, we touched it. You know what I mean? Like they are
Yeah.
doing 100K a month consistently is usually like my minimum for a business.
Cool. Yeah. A lot of guys that they're newer to the space, they'll come and ask me questions and like, yeah, I just got this opportunity. Check it out. What do you think? And it's like an agency and they did like 15K last month. It's like,
Yeah.
well, dude, you got it. I mean, like a lot of these agency owners or these coaches always have like super high expectations. They just think like sales rep comes in, it's going to change the game, man. Like we're going to triple our profit or like our revenue, and close rate's going to go up 20% overnight. Like,
Yeah.
and then they give like an OTE based off of what they think is possible, not what's been done or what is like reasonably going to be done in like the next month or two. And like so many of
Yeah.
these kids, like they don't run the numbers like me. Like I've learned how to do it because I like review all these jobs now. But they
Right.
don't learn how to run the numbers. They get into a shitty gig and they're like, dude, they said I'd make 10K. Why did I only make 2.5? It's like, well, did you run the numbers? You know?
Right.
So like that's something where just being in this space, like I'm pretty sure now when you hop on a call with a business owner, like you can tell pretty quickly, like if this is something where you would like to put a guy or like, help them out, or if you feel like you could help them out. And then sometimes you get on a call and you're like, dude, you should be looking at like lead gen, not a sales guy, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And like we just have some basic like we have like 5-10 questions in like a form that like they like
Yeah.
auto get disqualified if they're sub some revenue or sub some amount of like calls. But yeah, within like a 5-minute conversation, I'm like, fuck no. Like, or like, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. These guys are perfect. Like the average business we place reps for, they do like 550 grand a month. And like usually by then it's like that's a good enough size to where like they have a sales manager and like lead gen is
Yeah.
like pretty dialed. Like you don't make that much money on accident. So it's like they have a sales manager, they have some form of sales systems. It's not their first sales rep ever that they're hiring. So they have some form of like onboarding process for the sales rep. So like a lot of things are there that make it a good home for a sales rep. And not that revenue is the only qualification, but there's usually a lot of prerequisites to get to $500,000 a month that make me know that like they got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you work with agencies too, right?
Some, if they can like fulfill at scale, I definitely do. Like we have some marketing agencies that do like 300K a month and stuff like that. So like if they
Yeah.
can fulfill quantity of clients, we will. But I think with marketing agencies, there's this weird dichotomy of like you either have a few clients you make a shit ton of money for, or you charge less and you just play the quantity game. And for
Yeah.
those guys that can charge less and play the quantity game and they can like fulfill at scale, like we'll work with those guys. But when you're only closing like a client or two a month, it's really hard to like maintain a sales rep.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I tell guys too. Like coaching is just so much easier, man. So many more shots, you know.
Yeah.
The sales cycle is so much shorter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the agency, they'll be like, yeah, we're doing 200 a month. And then you kind of dig a little bit deeper and you realize like they're doing 30K new cash a month. All the rest is like
Yeah.
recurring. And then sales
Yeah.
reps don't get paid on that.
Yeah.
But you can, if you've got like an established agency, like you can work out a pretty sweet deal as a sales rep if you show them that you're competent, you know? Um,
Yeah.
cool, cool, cool. So now today, closing Bible, like what are things looking like? Like what is something that you're, I guess really working on inside? Like, where are you trying to take it?
Yeah. I mean, longer term, like the overarching goal is to like sell the whole business for $30 million by the time I'm 28. So I got 5 years. So that's the overall plan, like longer term. In the next 5 years is like exit. And like obviously exiting isn't going to be done if it's not going to be done and if it's just strictly like coaching. So a lot of things are going to evolve to where it's more of like a recruiting like platform, to where basically it's like right now we have like a, a whole like marketing channel for like businesses like hiring sales reps. It's like their qualification process, the whole shebang. And then we have like a pipeline of like sales reps that want said jobs. But there's inefficiency in the communication between both parties. Like obviously like it's fine. Like email, text, whatever. But like I would love to own the platform that they actually communicate on. So longer term, like probably within the next like 6 months or so, we're gonna have like a software platform where like both parties can join and like communicate with each other and like have some form of like communication. So that will be there, as basically just like a basic software.
Yeah.
And then I have another project that I can't exactly announce on a podcast. When it's built, people will see it. But some really cool stuff with like end of day reporting with sales reps and training up sales reps to KPI and stuff like that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So let's talk about this is a Sales Bro podcast. We got to get into the nitty gritty, right? I prepped
Let's
you
do
a little bit, and
it.
you seem down. So let's get into some like really really mind bending shit. Not really, but like I don't know. Let's talk sales, right? Let's get into some good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, starting broad here, why why do you think you had the success you had in sales? Like your selling style, what what are what are some things that you think worked really well for you?
Yeah. I think for me, one of the things that stood out the most was like I was willing to like say some things that weren't exactly like, why would a sales rep say that? Like I would say like the almost the downsides of the service, and it would make the prospect trust me more, so that anything else that I'd say, like, they would believe me a shit ton more.
Mm,
So I think just growing up in a small town, there was a lot of just like, there was a feel, there's like an essence, there's like an aura of like genuinely caring for the other person. So I would say things that weren't exactly equating to like, why would this make me buy this thing? But it makes me
yeah.
trust this guy so much more. So it's like the damaging emissions thing where you can like build more trust and rapport with someone. So I
Hmm.
think it was very clear to prospects that I had a deeper care for them that I did the money. And that I was acting out of a place of like just solving their problem, like helping them rather than the actual money itself. And it gave people such a level of trust with me that like when it comes to like objection handling time, like I can push pretty hard because we have such a good relationship.
Yeah. Interesting. When you were selling like as a full-time rep, I feel like the sales space has definitely evolved like very quickly over the like last year, especially the high ticket space. Like there's so much information out there now.
Yeah.
Everyone now is talking about like, sure, you want to be able to handle objections, but like, how about we don't get them at all? Like, were you trying making an effort to do that like a year ago when you were closing, or maybe a year and a
Yeah.
half ago when you were closing?
Yeah. Like I actually said this a couple days ago on Twitter, that like your prospect should be 90% closed before they even know what the fuck they're buying. Like in the actual discovery phase, before you even give them an offer, they should be like literally thanking you for like actually giving them an offer.
Yeah.
So how that actually happens is like, instead of like you selling them on like why they should buy your service, like there needs to be a pure flip to where like the harder you make it for them to actually get an offer and like able to buy their thing, they naturally assume like it must be pretty expensive and pretty exclusive and pretty good if few people can have it, because
Mhm.
humans have this weird psychology thing that comes back to like tribal days, to where they want to be a part of the pack, because when you lived in like a fucking tribe, like not being a part of the group or a part of the tribe meant that you have to go kill animals and eat and cook and find shelter all by yourself, and you're gonna fucking die. So there's this weird primal part of our brains that really wants to be a part of the tribe. So for you to say like, listen, like transparently, we turn down like 60% of people who hop on these calls, and we only give offers to people that have XYZ, criteria, and then and only then will we give you an offer. They're like, no, I'm good enough. I should get an offer. So then they'll start
Yeah.
selling to you on why they're good enough and worthy enough to buy the service. And when you can make that flip, like you can make any like rebuttal or like potential objection, whether it comes to like money or time or spouse or like other decision makers, as like so that means you're not going to give like, I'm not going to give you an offer because this seems like a red flag. So
Yeah.
you can really like test and disqualify really hard when that's kind of the frame you start the call with.
How do you now? Let's say you just sell like some run of the mill offer, like you're just selling another drop shipping offer, and it's good. Sure, you get results, but like, how do you create that frame if you don't have like the most rare, like exclusive program out there
Mm,
without them
easiest.
picking up on like fake scarcity type stuff?
Sure. It doesn't even have to be scarcity, but like it doesn't necessarily have to be scarcity, but just showing that like we only give offers to people that have XYZ, like, so like if we're selling an ecom coaching offer, right? It's like, listen, dude, there's a lot of shit that goes into like selling, or there's a lot of stuff that goes into like scaling a large e-commerce business. Like you have to have marketing down pat, a deep understanding of like Facebook ads, like a way to fulfill, a way to do all this. And like, there's going to be a lot of work involved in this. This isn't like a work 2 hours a day, make a shit ton of money thing. This is like really learn a shit ton because you have so much that you need to like digest to like actually make a lot of money doing this. And like with that, like if you don't have a good level of work ethic and like some level of like hunger to like digest and learn all this stuff, given that you're a little bit newer to the game, we're not going to work with you. Like we turn down a
Mhm.
lot of people who come on here because really what my job is to make sure that I'm only giving offers to people that I know for a fact that we can get results for. So I'm gonna have to really make sure that you're the right person before you can kind of see what we have. So even if you don't have the best thing in the world, if you're frame and like kind of where you're coming from is like, I just want what's best for you. And I don't want you to give me a fucking dollar if you're not going to go make money with us. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
usually kind of where you should come from if you're not, the best in the world.
And it's crazy too, because like depending on who you're selling to, like if you're selling to some dude who's like, maybe he's a younger dude, he's got like low self-esteem, he's not super confident, whatever, and you tell him that, he's gonna be like, I don't know if I can do it. And it's like, good, you just saved yourself a potential chargeback. But if you're selling to like that authority type where he's like, fuck this guy, did he just say I can't do it? Like then he's almost like wants it
Yeah.
more. Like what you said, right? The primal side of things. So
Yeah.
I would definitely agree. Like it also helps you make sure that the intent on their end is good. Like they're not just going to get in and then change their mind overnight, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Because
solid.
that's the beauty of things is it actually leads to like business owners loved me when I sold for them because they're like, I think where like sales guys get a bad rap is they set improper expectations. And then when they pay and they start fulfilling, they have these like crazy expectations that things are going to be so easy and so awesome. They're going to make so much money in such a short amount of time. And that's where people like get a bad rap with coaching as a whole is usually just expectation setting. So when
Yep.
that's the expectation you set, it does turn off the guys who probably weren't going to do well anyway. And it usually leads to like happier clients.
Yeah. How much of a role, like I feel like the longer I'm in this high ticket sales space or like remote sales space, the more I feel like, sure, you can go from like A minus to A plus closer, but the vehicle that you're in is like a lot more important than your sales skill. How much,
Mm-hmm.
like if you put it on a scale from like 1 to 10, how much or what number would you think like importance wise is the vehicle versus like actual sales skills in making the 15K a month?
That was the most sales bro question ever. I love it. I would probably say like it's like 7 out of 10. I think it's a
Yeah.
fucking lot of it. Like one of my favorite, sayings, and like Hermosi says it too, and he quotes someone else, but it's like it's often not how fast we row, but what boat we're in. Like
Yeah.
the way you make more money in sales is you like either sell more expensive shit, you go talk to more people that are actually qualified and have the money and want to buy the thing, or you go talk to more people. So like you can kind of evaluate your opportunity based on those things. Like you could be grinding your ass off talking to like pretty dang good leads, but the fact of the matter is if you're making like 25 bucks on every close, like you're not going to be able to close like 400 people a month to go make 10K a month. So it's like
Yeah.
there's just some basic criteria of like those three that you can usually show like what's my ceiling here, and your ability will allow you to hit said ceiling, but there's just higher ceilings on different offers. And like even if you're the best in the world, there's some level of ceiling that you will tap. You can't close 100% of people, and you can't dictate the price of things. So like you kind of just have to mentally know what your ceiling is, and like if you're not making more because you're not good enough or because you've hit that ceiling for the offer.
Yeah. And I think a lot of these with high ticket sales, especially because it's like it's really trendy now, like with COVID, everyone wants to make money online, and like that's kind of the direction just things are heading in. A lot of people are getting into sales in high ticket sales, and I think it like, not saying it like skews the way that you see sales and what's possible, but I think a lot of people just think, especially a lot of these guys are younger, right? They just think like they're
Yeah.
the problem when in reality like the business is not setting them up to like have success, or like even giving a platform
Yeah.
for anybody, like even a killer sales rep to have success. And they're like, dude, I just need to practice. I need to practice. I need to practice. Like, no, dude, you need to fucking leave. Like you need to go submit some applications.
Yeah.
Um, which dude, I say the offer is like 80%. That's usually the number I hover around. And
Yeah.
I saw that myself, dude.
Which is interesting because there's weird dichotomy of like some people are stuck in their head and they think they're not good enough and their offer fucking sucks. And some people are on a pretty decent offer and they're just not that good. But
Yeah.
I think it's honestly better in my opinion for them to not be finger pointing at the offer or the marketing of, oh, the marketing sucks, or oh, this offer sucks, or this or that. And I'd rather them look internally and be like, I have room for improvement. But I think when you don't have the critical eye to know when things aren't right in an offer, you just assume that you suck. And, The
Yeah.
answer is usually somewhere in the middle of that spectrum.
Yeah, dude, if you're on a coaching program and you're the only closer, then it's really hard. I mean, and the founder, like, sure, they close at a higher percentage, just how it is, but they're like,
Yeah.
you're commission only, bro. They don't really lose by having you take sales calls. They're gonna be like, nah, dude, you're good, you're good. Just like keep practicing and get better. But then if you're on like a
Yeah.
real sales team and they're doing half a mil a month, there's 5 closers and you're clearly closing like 10% less than everyone, like, yeah, you need to get better. But
Yeah.
otherwise, that's why you need to hop into networks like yours and like mine and talk to people,
Hmm.
bro. Like, I think that is one of the most important things. Like, that's how I got started, dude. I connected with you. And
Yeah.
so, like, if without that, like, would I have figured it out? Probably. Would it have been as fast? No. Would I have stumbled around a little bit more? Yeah. So like, it's just about knowing people. And even at a higher level, like the best offers, bro, they're not in Facebook groups. They're not on
No.
Twitter. They're not on Instagram. They're like through the DMs. It's like, yo, I know someone who needs a closer here. Like my team's hiring. I know you're good. Like, so I've seen that firsthand. Like, dude, I still close for a company, and like the offer that I'm closing for is it was not like posted publicly. It was through like a fucking killer salesperson that I know, and
Hmm.
I think just like everything, bro. The longer you're in it, that it compounds. Your skill compounds, your network compounds, your results compound. Like it just gets easier. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of ways to fuck up in the beginning, but if you just stick to it, like it gets a lot easier.
Yeah, I think for those out there maybe that are like, how do I land that offer? I think you need to go where the supply and demand makes sense. Like when you're in a Facebook group with 3,000 unemployed salespeople that are probably not that good, the businesses probably aren't the best in the world because like from a business owner standpoint, when they're like, I need a sales rep, I'm doing $1 million a month. They're not just gonna like run into a Facebook group. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's so many better ways of acquiring a sales rep than going there first. Like usually if you're in a Facebook group, you are like grabbing the crumbs of what guys like me and Dylan or different sales recruiters or like I know a guy who knows a guy. Like if it's not good enough for us or that kind of like realm, then they go below to like maybe their social medias and stuff. And then if they're like, well, fuck, that didn't work, like maybe I'll like put it in the Facebook group or something. Like that's
yeah,
usually kind of the order of like who knows a lot of good salespeople. Let me ask them for one. If I'm not good enough for them, then maybe I'll like post it on my Instagram, my Twitter, my email list or something. And then if I don't get anything there, then like, dear Lord, I guess I'll go into a Facebook group. And like when you have a
yeah,
good offer, it doesn't go through that many rungs. You know what I
bro.
mean? So
Yeah, when
the
they're doing like a million a month for them to pay $5,000 for a good sales rep or a few good sales reps, like it just makes more sense. Like they don't want to post in a
yeah,
Facebook group and take 100 interviews.
no,
Now, all that being said, like, dude, if you're just starting out, you probably need to be in the fucking Facebook groups. Like I know people right now that are making 15, 20K a month from Facebook group opportunities. Like there's good opportunities in there. You just have to play the numbers game. Um,
mm-hmm.
and that's one thing. Like if I, besides paying for networks like yours or mine, I would say like Instagram outreach, it's so hit or miss, bro, because like you're gonna send 100 messages, 10 respond, 6 it's the VA or the appointment setter.
Yeah,
2 they're like hiring, but you're not qualified. 2 you get an interview, you don't fucking make it because it's your first job. Like that's a numbers game. I mean, Facebook is definitely one of like the top ways to still go and get it for free on your own. You just gotta
mm-hmm.
put in reps and then know like know what to look for and what to stay away from, which at this point you probably don't know. So you just pay someone, bro. Just work with somebody, meet people, and you're gonna save yourself a lot of headaches, like 2-3 months onboarding, offboarding, onboarding, offboarding.
Yeah.
Just pay somebody.
Yeah, some of the best ways I've found to like land killer sales roles is like really good marketers, like people that run like massive marketing agencies that like actually do numbers for their clients, getting a good relationship with them, because every time they get a new client, those clients, if they're running ads for them to get more book calls, probably need more salespeople. So if you have a good relationship with like guys that run killer marketing agencies, even if they don't need a sales rep, which more times than not, they probably don't, their clients probably do. So you can get one person that might have multiple like sales offers, like, job offers, stuff like that. Or you can go to like higher level masterminds, like the Sam Ovens, Cole Gordons, and which Cole Gordon's like mastermind, like they're going to have his
Yeah.
sales reps, of course. But like, you know what I mean? Like these higher level masterminds for guys that are doing a couple $100,000 a month, trying to get in contact with like looking on LinkedIn for like their sales recruiter or their head of recruitment or whatever, and being like, hey, like whether you guys need a sales job or like need a salesperson, or one of your clients need salespeople, like I'm your guy. And then it's
Yeah.
nice because there's like hundreds of sales opportunities that you could have amongst all of their clients, whether it's a marketer or like a big mastermind. And
Yeah.
that's where the supply and demand is usually in your favor. So we found some killer sales roles by like building partnerships or just knowing people in those two spaces.
Yeah, dude. I'll add one more onto that since we're spitting game is like when I got into this space, like I knew Twitter was going to be big in me like leaving the job and connecting with people and all that. I paid for
Mhm.
like a Twitter program, like a Twitter growth thing, and it was not cheap. And all the connections I made in there, like there are people doing things, dude. And my actual first closing job, which like I don't really count because it was kind of shitty, but
Yeah.
was through that. And then like my first real one where I was like getting 5-6 calls a day was the one that you connect me with. But like to this day, bro, that was my first like technically closing job. And then now like people in that group, it just kind of like branched out, um, are reaching out to me like for sales reps and training and help and all this stuff. So like pay for access to people
Yeah.
and networks, like not just sales networks, but like Twitter growth or agencies or marketing or fucking whatever you want to do, man. Like one good one too that I haven't looked into all that much. Like I'm in it, but it's a lot is Wiz of Ecom's Utopia. Are you in there?
Really? No, I'm not.
Yeah, dude. There's a lot like, dude, the whole thing is about like building an agency, online businesses and all that. Like, how many of those guys need sales reps? It's like I don't know how much it costs a month. I paid like 250 for the year, but like the number of opportunities that you could get from something like that, if you're just starting out, it's just like you pay a little bit of money, you make it a little bit easier for yourself. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so there's some for you guys listening, there's some fucking sauce on how to not get like lost in the Facebook groups. I don't know, let's talk about a little bit more like sales stuff. So, you work with guys, I'm sure, that are coming from different industries, right? Like
Yeah.
real estate and door to door and stuff like that. Like what are some
Mhm.
of the main sticking points that you see these guys have when they come from like more traditional sales industries? And like how do you oh yeah, like what do you really hit on to like get them up to speed with high ticket sales as compared to like the other kinds of sales out there?
For sure. Biggest thing with I could like we work with door to door salespeople, like corporate salespeople, or like some like people have like shut down their agencies and stuff like that, and just
Yeah.
like fuck this, I'm just gonna go close. Like we've worked with a lot of all three of that kind of like category of people, and of course others. But for the door to door sales guys, like when you're showing up to the door, they don't know who the fuck you are, and it's like give me money. You have like 15-30 seconds to like go make something happen, and so you have to like sell hard, like kind of more early. And
Yeah.
it's like kind of like what I said of like you're selling them on why they should buy the thing. And then when you have like inbound calls where they booked in a call with you, they're on your calendar and they have a level of interest, they try to bring that same like just dog, like, you know what I mean? Like door to door energy into a call. And it's like, whoa, like, your pants are down and we just met. You know what I mean? Like, this is a little premature, dude.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they have to like reserve themselves and like not sell so hard and like kind of raise that barrier to entry to like get an offer, like pretty much like they don't do what I mentioned a tad earlier,
Yeah.
where they have like a little bit of commission breath and they have to like really reserve themselves and hold them back and like ask more like qualifying questions. That's what tends to happen with corporate, or I'm sorry, with door to door salespeople. With the corporate salespeople, they have a problem closing on the phone. Like they more times than not
Yeah.
they can't have one call closes because they're used to like longer sales cycles where it's like we're trying to get this one company that does $50 million a year to use this like HR software or something. And for these guys, they're used to a deal taking a month and a half, like 3 weeks maybe, and getting on 4 or 5 calls and like sending a bunch of emails and a bunch of contracts and stuff and going back and forth for a while and then closing. So
Yeah.
these guys, when it's like, whoa, you saw an ad yesterday and you're giving me 10 grand a day, like it's a lot for them. So
Yeah.
getting used to like a more condensed sales cycle is usually the corporate kind of more sales guys problem.
That was my thing, dude. That was my problem when I came on. Because I was selling for like top rated company in my city,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a matter of like usually we had to wait for insurance. I was selling roofing. We had to wait for insurance. It'd be a month or two, and like we were the most expensive, but we were really good at what we did. And so like I don't know. I just kind of played it super cool. Like I didn't push too hard, and I managed the pipeline well. But then when I came into high ticket sales, I realized like, dude, I thought I was like the fucking shit at sales, and I was like
Yeah,
good. Like I had a really good baseline, but
for
like
sure.
I was hit in the face, bro. I was like, holy shit, like, bro, it was like a completely different thing. And like eventually you get so many reps, like you catch on. Like anybody would catch on
Yeah,
if you just start and go. But
yeah.
dude, I definitely was not expecting like the night and day shift. And I have a lot of guys come to me as well, from like the tech side of things, especially right now with like
A lot of
I
layoffs.
don't know, recession and fucking bank collapsing and all that kind of shit
Yeah.
that's going on. So that's a good point. Like a lot of the guys I work with, like I mean, because my main thing is the lower ticket community deal. It's not as much one-on-one work, but you do a lot more one-on-one, hands-on stuff. So you probably see
Mm-hmm.
that a lot more. So it's interesting to
Yeah.
know. What industry do you think translates the best to high ticket sales?
Mm, it's a good question. Um, I think door to door guys crush. Like I'll stand by that. Um, I Some of the people who've done the best are usually agency owners who like honestly what they love the most about running their agency is just closing clients, and they just don't enjoy fulfillment, or they realize there's
Yeah,
so many facets to running a business that just like fucking overwhelming, and they just want to go make money and close deals. um,
yeah,
some of those guys I've seen hop in the closing bible and just do like freaking 5-6 grand commissions in like their first like week or two on like on an offer. Like the door-to-door guys usually like if there's any type of like, oh, lead flows down a tad, or like, oh, this isn't the warmest lead in the world, like there's no like, they're so grateful to have a somewhat inbound lead like on their calendar just in the crm, that they're like, these people like they know who we are, like, and they're kind of interested, like let's go make some fucking cash. Like
yeah,
door to door people are so just grateful for like a relatively warm lead that like they crush, and there's a little bit of a less like sense of entitlement, so they'll do the
yeah,
dirty work of like doing cold calls and really working a crm, like if because it's so much better than what they were doing.
yeah. Who do you think? I mean, like you've seen a lot of guys, whether they're brand new or they've been in sales. Like I'm sure you worked with guys that say they're in their late 20s. They've had the experience, right? And then they come in like, do you think the younger dude who's just straight up hungry, glad to have leads does better, or like the guy who's been in sales for like 5, 6, 7 years and they're like pretty well versed? Like who do you think has a shorter ramp time to like being successful with this usually?
mm, that's tough. um that's a
Yeah, it's a
really
super
tough question.
situational question.
Yeah, what do you think though? I'm intrigued.
I think it probably depends on the offer, like honestly. Now, like if we're
Yeah,
talking DM appointment setting, like that super repetitive work, like yeah, I want like an 18-year-old kid who's needs fucking money, you know? But like
yeah.
if you're trying to close like $20,000 agency packages, like I want someone with a fully developed brain, you know? And someone
Yeah,
who knows sales a little better.
yeah. Because I think I really had to like mull things over. I think for the 28, whatever year old guy who's kind of like been there, done that. If he was still like, if he was commission only in his previous role, I think if he was crazy high base pay and like very low commission, like I would honestly probably still pick the younger, hungry guy. But if
Yeah.
he came from a commission only background, definitely that guy. Because
Yeah.
when you think of like the living expenses and like how much money they need to make just to have like to maintain quality of life when you're 28 versus like fucking 17, 18. You know what I mean? It's like you're 18, you can make 2K a month, maybe 3K a month, and you're balling out, bro. You're the richest of all your
Yeah.
friends. But so
Dude,
like they don't, although they're hungry, like the capacity for what they deem to be like good money isn't near as high. So they can maybe hit the brakes a little bit when they've made 2,500 for the month. But that
yeah.
28-year-old that has a mortgage and a kid and another kid on the way, he's trying to make 8, 10 just to like pay bills and get some level of stability. So
Yeah. Especially like these guys who are later 20s, 30s, even 40s, bro, where they're like selling solar or doing like insurance. Like insurance is fucking brutal, bro. Um,
brutal.
and if they can crack that code, like I also think there's just a level like I wouldn't want to use it as an excuse for anyone who's young, but like when you hop on a call with someone and you just see like they're literally just older, like they're more established, like you can't pretend like it's not a thing, right? Like
Yeah.
they've got, the fucking full beard and the like nice watch and they just look older or whatever the case is. You
Yeah.
just like trust that person more than like the 19-year-old high ticket closer, even though that person could still do really well.
For sure. I think when
But
you're younger, you have to compensate by being so fucking sharp and like knowing more.
yeah,
I think if you know more about the person than the other person about the thing, like whatever you're selling, you can still have that level of like status delta on a sales call.
yeah,
But if you're young and you're like stuttering and they ask you a question and you're like, don't know the answer to it, like you're gone immediately. Cause like
yeah,
you're already operating out of a place of like lack and like assumption that you don't know what the fuck you're doing. So like you have to overcompensate by that so hard by really knowing what you're talking about. Because I was like 18, 19 when I got into this. And like, um, once I really knew what I was talking, like when I started really crushing, I was selling offers that I like deeply understood. And then
yeah,
age really didn't matter. It was more just like I closed a deal and like they just covered the invoice and we're doing onboarding. They're like, by the way, like, dude, we're talking on Zoom. Like, you don't exactly look like you're in your late 20s. Like, how old are you, bro? And I'm like,
yeah.
I'm 21. And I'm like 19.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say like whatever you're selling, like if you have results in that area, it makes it so much harder. Like if you're overweight selling fitness, like dude, you're not making it easier for yourself. If you like
No.
your case, you had been trading and you were selling a trading course, like dude, you could vouch for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely say if you have experience in that, like lean into it 100%.
Yeah.
Um, I hate to like cut it short. I have a call in a couple minutes here, but I wanted to ask you, uh, you made the move like once you started having some success, you made the move like across the country, um, from Chicago. Wait, not Chicago. Where were you? Illinois, but like
I was
the
like 2 hours south
countryside.
of Chicago in like a
Okay,
somewhat decent sized town, but yeah.
yeah, and then you moved down to Miami. Like, how did that play into how things, you know, happened after that? Like, was it super beneficial for you? Like, what's the overall
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah, it was very beneficial for me. I think I was in Bloomington, Illinois, which is where I went to college. And like I dropped out, but I kept living there because I was waiting on my girl to graduate.
Yeah,
And I just felt like a big fish in a small pond. Like I literally, the people I was hanging out with in Bloomington were like dudes that were like 50 years old that like own restaurants and real estate, or like 35 years old and like owned a gym, or like State Farm headquarters was there. So I was like hanging out with like some of those guys. And they're all like way older and like we're making like the same amount of money, or like I'm making more than them. And I'm like this is weird, dude. Like I'm hanging out with people like double my age, like triple my age, and like we're doing the same numbers or I'm doing more. Like I'm like, how am I gonna grow? And like I'm with the like big fish of this small pond, and like this is it. Like I've hit my ceiling for like the area that I'm in. So when I moved to Miami, I'm like, I want to be like laughed out of a room for like making how much I'm making.
yeah,
Like I want to be like the little guy that's like not making very much money and like the dumbest guy in the room. Like that's what I wanted. So
yeah,
I really surrounded myself with people that were doing numbers. Of course, like I'm not into the material stuff. Like, bro, I don't even have a car and I don't have a watch. Like, I could obviously get one. I just don't want one.
yeah,
Like, I'm not into that shit, but like seeing the Ferrari and seeing the Lambo drive by and the Porsche drive by and the guy's got a nice watch on and you're around that a lot, it definitely helps because you're like, you can just feel like money in the air and it kind of just like raises the bar. And of course, the people you bump into at a coffee shop doing a couple million a year, like the amount of like businesses I've placed sales reps for that I've met in a cigar lounge is like absurd. So from
That's
a
crazy.
networking perspective and just being around money, it was awesome for me to just kind of like raise my bar and like raise my standards.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm looking to move to, or not looking to, like I've booked a place for Austin in May. I already kind of live in like a decent sized city, but it's not like a new money type of city, you know. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to getting there. But to wrap it up, man, tell the people where do they find you? How do they work with you? All that stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I don't know if you could put like a link in the description, but like
Yeah.
GarrettCampbell.com/closing Bible, we have like a pretty killer video kind of explaining what it would look like working together, all that fun stuff. I also have a free sales course. And then if you look up Garrett Campbell on, honestly, subscribe to my YouTube. Like my YouTube and my Twitter are like my main platforms. So check me out there and just Google me. You'll find me.
Cool. Cool, man. Yeah, no, appreciate you coming on. Um, this one will drop about 3 days from now, next Monday. So everyone listening,
Killer.
follow this guy, get in touch with him, and yeah, let's wrap it up there, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, dude.